3 spine-chilling summer camping tales. Terrifying secrets revealed from haunted trails. Sarah's heart raced as she drove deeper into the wilds of the Appalachian Mountains, the weight of their family's fractures pressing down like the heavy summer air. The chirping crickets and rustling leaves outside seemed to mock her resolve. She hoped to weave together the past, the joy of camping trips she recalled from her own childhood, and bring back what her family had lost. Timmy, age 10, sat in the back, eyes glued to his handheld gaming console. Ella, age 7, was staring out the window, her tiny fingers tracing the shapes of towering trees passing by. The tranquility didn't last. Distant whispers echoed through the dense woods, a sinister murmur meant only for the curious. Disappearances. Dark trails. When they arrived at the campsite, the atmosphere shifted. The unsettling silence hung like a thick fog despite the swaths of trees. Other campers avoided eye contact, whispering hastily among themselves, their expressions clouded with dread. "Isn't it beautiful?" Sarah forced a smile, trying to awaken hope. But just as the evening succumbed to darkness, the forest took on a life of its own. As the trio sat around the crackling fire, roasting marshmallows, the chants of nature morphed into something horrifying. The campsite was bathed in an unnatural chill when the hush settled in, shifting the weight on her chest. The warmth of the flames felt fragile as unsettling sounds pierced the murkiness. Snap. Was that a branch? Or something more? The ease of the moment vanished as the whispers grew louder, brushing against her skin with ice-cold fingers. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. She shifted uneasily, feeling an unshakable dread creep through her legs like a spider weaving its web. Suddenly, an icy breeze rustled the leaves, and a scream echoed, shattering their fragile peace. Startled, they all turned as if the woods themselves had grown ears, listening, waiting. Then, it happened. Timmy, in a fit of youthful energy, decided to play hide and seek. "I'll cover my eyes, go hide." With a deep breath, Sarah counted, her voice trembling with unease. When she opened her eyes, panic surged. Timmy was nowhere in sight. "Timmy!" Her voice cracked as it sliced through the suffocating stillness. "Invite the darkness back in," the woods taunted. A horrifying realization clawed at her throat. The trees closing in. Alone, Ella clung to her side, fear etched in her little features as they called Timmy's name in vain. The soft rustle of leaves became menacing. Shadows danced in the trunks, merging with the nightmares she dismissed. When the sun rose, their car lay silent, lifeless. Key turned, engine dead. Her heart skipped as she glimmered at the fleeting strands of hope, only to find the chilling truth. Their phones flickered but served only static, no service. The world beyond became a fading memory as the haunting trails whispered again of curses and lost souls. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, Sarah felt the boundary between reality and horror erode. Just as despair threatened to engulf them, she spotted a path underneath the thick underbrush. But something regretfully instinctive warned her back. It was now a question that preyed upon her mind: were the legends true? Would the darkness claiming the land have its share of her family too? It all seemed to teeter on the edge of a terrifying truth, and she feared what they were about to uncover. Heart pounding, Sarah took a step forward. The path wound ahead, a dark invitation that pulled at her very core. She could taste the fear hanging in the air, salty and bitter. Ella clutched her hand, her tiny fingers trembling. "Mommy, I don't like it here," she whimpered. "Me neither," Sarah whispered back, forcing bravery into her voice. "But we have to find Timmy." The trees loomed taller, the shadows growing thicker. The sun had slipped behind the ridge, and the world felt lost to twilight. Every rustle of nearby shrubs and distant crunch of leaves crept into Sarah's mind like a slow poison. She let out a shaky breath, fighting the flickering images of what could have happened to her son. As they ventured deeper, the whispers returned, curling around her thoughts. Lost forever, never found. Sarah shook her head, ridding herself of the dread-laden voices. They couldn't be true. They had to find Timmy. A sudden, defining crack echoed nearby, sending ripples of terror through her. What was that? Ella gasped. Just the branches, Sarah said, but her own voice trembled. She glanced around, bracing for what might emerge from the shadows. The path narrowed, encroaching from either side, making her want to turn back more with each step. Suddenly, Ella pulled at her shirt. "Mommy, look." Sarah squinted into the thickening gloom. It was then she spotted its scratches on the bark of a tree, deep and jagged, like something had desperately fought to escape. She felt a wave of nausea wash over her. What made those? Ella's eyes widened as dark shapes drifted behind the trees. Nothing more than flickers of movement. Was it just her imagination? That damn static that had been haunting them since they arrived? Or was it something lurking? Something waiting? As if responding to her dread, a low growl echoed from the darkness. Sarah's heart seized. "We need to hurry." She tugged at Ella, quickening her pace along the narrow path. But the feeling grew, something behind them, slinking closer. The shadows seemed to breathe, alive with malice. "Mommy, I'm scared," Ella cried, panic lacing her voice. "I know, sweetheart. Stay close." Sarah's fingers tightened around her daughter's hand, panic clawing at her throat. Yet no matter how fast they moved, the air thickened, and the ground seemed to tremble underfoot. Suddenly, a flicker of hope. Something glimmered in the fading light ahead, a small clearing. "This way," she urged, leading Ella toward it. But as they breached the edge, what lay before them chilled her to the bone. The clearing was a graveyard of discarded belongings. Shredded backpacks, torn blankets, and muddy clothes, all seemingly untouched by time. Her heart raced with horror. "Mommy!" Ella yelped, pointing toward the remnants scattered about. A single shoe lay, small and blue. Timmy's. "No," Sarah whispered, sinking to her knees, the ground hard beneath her. Who had been here? What fate had they met? A sudden rustling pulled her gaze upward. She glanced around, eyes darting, pulse racing. From the shadows of the trees, a figure stepped into view, cloaked in darkness. The air grew icy, every breath cracking painfully in her lungs. "Welcome," it rasped, voice like scraping nails on a chalkboard. "Get back," Sarah shouted as fear flooded her veins, dragging Ella to stand behind her. But just as quickly as it had come, the figure dissolved into shadows, leaving nothing but a breathless silence heavy with foreboding. It wasn't over. They had to find Timmy, and fast. But the path they chose would lead them deeper into a nightmare they never asked for. "What do we do now?" she breathed, Ella's terrified eyes searching hers for answers. The echoes in the woods grew sinister once more, whispering her name, inviting her into their grasp. The darkness hungered, and it was just getting started. Would they emerge from this twisted web of terror? Or were they already ensnared in the grip of something far worse? The silence pressed down on Sarah like a weight, filled with the gnawing sound of whispered shadows. The faint rustle of leaves seemed to mock her, a taunting reminder of the unseen horrors lurking just beyond the brush. Her heart fluttered in her chest like a trapped bird, desperate for escape. "Mommy, I don't like this," Ella whispered, her voice barely rising above the eerie stillness. "I know, sweetie. Just keep holding my hand," Sarah replied, gritting her teeth. She scanned the clearing, hoping for a sign, anything that could lead her to Timmy. The remnants abandoned here were a testament to futility, but she couldn't give in to despair. Not yet. A harsh wind swept through the trees, chilling them to the bone. It carried with it the sharp scent of decay, making Sarah's stomach turn. She turned to Ella, to protect her from the terror seeping in through the cracks. But the little girl's eyes were fixated on something beyond her. "Mommy?" Ella's voice trembled. "What if we can't find Timmy? What if he—" "Stop," Sarah snapped, then softened her tone when she noticed Ella's face darken with fear. "No thinking like that. We will find him. We have to move. Okay? As Sarah pulled her daughter gently along the path, the whispers returned, layering their voices like a funeral choir. Leave before it's too late, did you hear that? Ella's tiny hands tightened, her grip alarmingly strong. Yes, Sarah admitted, glancing behind them. The impression of looming figures flitted just out of sight. A cold knot curled in her stomach as she hurried forward, pushing through the suffocating dread pressing on her skin. The trees began to close in, the branches hanging low like sinister arms reaching out to grab them. With each step, the path became dimmer, the shadows thickening as if they had a life of their own. The world beyond seemed to disappear, leaving only this dark cocoon filled with whispers and a palpable fear. Then, from the corner of her eye, Sarah caught sight of another clearing, perhaps the last before total darkness. Hope flared in her heart as she turned toward it, but just as quickly, it evaporated. The clearing was different from the first. Here, the ground was stained red, a deep, dark crimson that glimmered in the waning light like spilled paint. "Mommy!" Ella cried out, her voice rising in pitch as they entered the terrible scene. What lay ahead took shape, and Sarah's breath hitched in her throat. Shattered toys surrounded a fire pit that looked ancient, charred wood and ash whispering of long-forgotten embers. "No, no, no," she gasped, backing away but finding only a wall of trees behind them, closer than before. The air pulsed with unease, heavy as if the very ground demanded an offering. "This is where the others went," Ella said, her voice quivering. Sarah's skin prickled with the chill of realization. Her child was right. The chilling thought sank into her gut. This was a playground of lost souls. Had Timmy been here? Had he? "Ella, we need to move. Now." Fear propelled her as she grabbed her daughter's hand, and they turned back toward the path. But what greeted them sent a shockwave through her body. The figure from before reemerged, more solid than before, its features obscured but its presence suffocating. "Leave this place," it rasped, its voice echoing around them, splintering the air like broken glass. Both Sarah and Ella froze, paralyzed by terror. "What do we do?" she whispered, clutching Ella's hand as if it were a lifeline. In response, the figure raised a skeletal hand, pointing toward the darkness behind the trees. He chose the words chilled her to the bone. Who had chosen? Why? Panic rose like bile in her throat as they stood there, waiting for anything to happen. The shadows shifted, swirling and beckoning them. Time stopped, stretching seconds into endless, suffocating moments. And then, without warning, the figure faded away, leaving the world even darker than before, pulsing with an unseen malice. "Mommy?" Ella whimpered, eyes wide and terrified. "We will find a way out," Sarah said, but doubt wrapped around her like a noose. With every heartbeat, Sarah felt the pull of the darkness intensifying, the shadows inching closer. What could wait for them in the black void beyond? "We need to go deeper," she whispered, terror coursing through her. Could they escape the grip of darkness? Or had they just stepped into a fate worse than they could imagine? The darkness swallowed them whole, a stifling shroud that blurred the edges of their reality. The path wound on, curling and twisting like a serpent, threatening to constrict them in its vice-like grip. Sarah's heart raced, every beat echoing in the quiet as they plunged further into the unknown. Mommy Ella's voice trembled again, small and fragile in the suffocating silence. What if we can't find Timmy? What if he is?" Sarah interrupted, her own fear clawing at her throat. "We're going to find him. We'll scream for him if we have to." Her words tasted bitter, laced with desperation. They pressed on, the air thickening like molasses, each breath a struggle. The whispers grew louder, now a cacophony of dreadful secrets. "He should have stayed, he shouldn't have come back," Ella halted, her little face pale, eyes wide. "Mommy, I don't like it." She tugged at Sarah's hand, her tiny frame shivering as if caught in an icy wind. "I know, baby. Just a little further," Sarah urged, squeezing Ella's hand tighter. The thin line separating courage from terror blurred as they ventured deeper into the void. Suddenly, a loud snap echoed through the trees, startling them both. Sarah's heart leaped. What was that? She gasped, the primal instinct to flee igniting inside her. Maybe it was Timmy. Ella brightened for a moment, but the accompanying hope quickly soured into dread as they remained frozen in place, anticipation wrapping around them tightly. Timmy, Sarah called, injecting force into her voice, trying to drown the whispers lurking around them. Can you hear us? Silence descended again, heavy and oppressive, amplifying their breathing. Then, frostbite chill shot through her as a soft, childish giggle broke through the gloom, disembodied and haunting. He's here with us, Mommy. I don't like this. I want to go home. Ella complained, her face scrunching into terror. Stay close, sweetie, Sarah whispered, horrified at what the laughter implied. They pressed onward, half-heartedly searching for the source, their souls edging toward despair. The darkness pressed against their skin, and Sarah's mind raced, frantically cataloging memories of the woods, the picnic, the games, Timmy's laugh. Each cherished moment was tainted now, a cruel reminder of what they had lost. Mommy? Ella's voice quivered like a candle about to be snuffed. Yes, baby, I'm here. Why do the trees look like they're watching us? Sarah's gaze snapped to the bark, each twist and gnarled root forming faces, eyes, mouths that seemed to suck in the light. And as the darkness unfurled, she saw movement, shadows shifting, a hint of appendages reaching from the trees. Run! She shouted instinctively, yanking her daughter close as panic surged, flooding their senses with adrenaline. Branches scratched at their clothes, snagging Sarah's jacket. She felt fingers cold, nimble brush against her back, dragging her into an abyss of despair. Mommy! I can't! Ella wailed, her legs stumbling on unseen roots, slowing them down. Get up, please! Sarah cried, her voice breaking under the weight of fear. She could almost feel the shadows breathing behind them. The desperation surged and ignited a fire. They had to escape. As they finally burst into another clearing, Sarah fell to her knees, breathless and trembling, hands gripping Ella possessively. The moonlight poured over them, eerily illuminating their surroundings. But what lay ahead sent a shocking wave of horror coursing through her veins. Scattered bones littered the ground, remnants of the past. A doll's head, twisted and cracked, grinned up at her from the dirt. Is this where Timmy is? Ella's whisper echoed, filled with dread. Timmy! Sarah screamed, her voice hoarse, weaving between panic and disbelief. Come out! Please, we need you! But only silence answered her, thick and suffocating, wrapping around them like a choking embrace. Then, suddenly, from the edge of the tree-line, a silhouette took form, more defined this time but equally horrifying. You're too late, he has chosen. Ella squeezed her mother tight, eyes wide with fear. Who chose? What do you want? Sarah shouted, her voice trembling. But the figure merely tilted its head, the shadows swirling around it, thickening, choking the air as if the darkness itself was getting ready to strike. In that moment, a chilling realization cracked through her mind. Timmy's laughter had been replaced by something far more sinister. What if he never wanted to be found? What if he was lost forever? With her heart in her throat and darkness closing in, Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her. She had to find him or risk being swallowed whole by the very void that waited. Could she fight what remained? Or would she too become just another lost soul in the shadows? The figure edged closer, mouth moving in a silent parody of speech. Sarah's instincts screamed to run, but her feet felt glued to the ground, heavy with dread. Ella trembled beside her, hardly a whisper escaping her lips. The figure's presence felt almost tangible, a suffocating companion in the dark. Mommy, I'm scared, Ella finally whispered, tears glistening in the moonlight. Me too, baby. But we have to stay strong. We can't let it, whatever it is, catch us. Sarah's voice was shaky, an attempt to rally the remnants of her strength. Suddenly, the wind shifted, carrying with it a scent of decay. It was faint at first, like rotting leaves, but it grew stronger, swirling around them. The laughter echoed again, twirling in the air, more mocking now. Timmy, where are you? A flicker of movement caught her eye. In the distance, a shadow flitted between the trees, quick and erratic. "Timmy?" she called hesitantly, desperation creeping into her tone. The figure, long and thin, now seemed to swell in size. "He is not coming back." "Not for you," a voice rasped, deep and hollow. "Please," Sarah screamed. "You have to let him go." But it was as if the figure absorbed her plea, laughter erupting from the depths. In that cacophony, despair gripped her throat. She glanced at Ella, feeling the weight of impending loss. She was failing her child. "Let us go," Sarah shouted, grabbing Ella's hand tightly as she turned to flee, not entirely sure where they were headed. They dashed through the clearing, ears ringing with the taunting sounds behind them. Each step felt like a battle against a tide of darkness eager to pull them under. Branches clawed at them, thick vines wrapping around their ankles like hungry serpents. A dreadful panic surged inside her. How long before it would swallow them whole? "Mommy, I can't." "You can. You have to," Sarah cried, gasping as they stumbled forward. Fear etched into every line of Ella's face ignited a fierce determination within Sarah. There had to be a way out, a path to safety. They plunged into another dense cluster of trees, but this area felt different. The whispers faded into an ominous hum, as if the darkness was listening. Shadows moved, darting just out of her sight, like mischievous little ghosts. "Look," Ella pointed ahead, her small voice filled with both wonder and terror. There, at the edge of a clearing, stood a crudely built wooden cabin, its door ajar, the darkness spilling from inside like an invitation. "Timmy might be in there," Ella urged, her hopeful innocence cutting through the suffocating fear. Sarah hesitated. No, it could be a trap, but the nagging pang of despair echoed louder than her fears. "If Timmy was really in there, Mommy, we have to try," Ella insisted, palpable urgency in her voice. Dread weighing heavy in her heart. Sarah nodded. They moved toward the cabin, each step pulling them deeper into the unknown. The air crackled with a strange energy, charged with unspoken threats and dark promises. As they stepped over the threshold, the door creaked eerily, the sound harmonizing with the whispers that resumed, now more urgent. Shadows danced around them, flickering dangerously close. "Timmy," Sarah called out louder this time, but came only the mocking laughter that seemed to swirl around them, closing in. The walls felt alive, pulsing with dark energy as if the very cabin had claimed independence from the world. "Mommy, I don't like it." Ella wrapped her arms around Sarah's waist, her grip unyielding. "She will find him." Just before she could finish, something shifted behind them. The door slammed shut with a resounding crash. Heart pounding, Sarah spun, her breath caught in her throat. In the darkened cabin, eyes glimmered, hungry and hollow, reflecting the flickering candlelight. "Welcome home," a warped voice cooed from the shadows. And in that moment, Sarah realized they may have stumbled into something far worse than they had ever imagined. Suddenly, a scream echoed within the walls, familiar and haunting. "Timmy!" The very air thickened, suffocating them. What had they walked into? Was it already too late to turn back? The words lingered in the air, wrapping around her like a vice. "Welcome home." Ella squeezed Sarah's waist tighter. The child's breathing quickened, heart racing in sync with her mother's. The atmosphere thickened, almost pressurized, as though the very walls conspired to keep them there, trapped and vulnerable. "Timmy!" Sarah shouted again, voice rising in urgency, each syllable echoing back uneasily. The laughter intensified, warping into a cacophony of hisses and whispers, as if the shadows were gleeful in their torment. "Mommy, I want to go home," Ella whimpered, tears spilling down her cheeks, glistening like liquid moonlight. "Sho, sweetheart." Sarah felt the panic rising in her throat, tempered by a flicker of resolve. She had to be the strong one. "We'll find Timmy. Just stay close." The flickering candlelight cast grotesque shapes on the wooden walls. Shadows stretched and twisted, giving life to the dark corners. The living essence of the cabin was undeniable. It seemed to breathe, rise and fall, like the belly of a slumbering beast. A loud thud from the back of the cabin made both their heads snap. What was that? Ella's whisper barely reached Sarah's ears, trembling with fear. I don't know. But we need to check, she replied, summoning the courage to lead Ella deeper into the belly of the beast. They moved cautiously, footsteps muffled against the creaking floorboards, every sound amplified in the silence that followed. As they tread away from the door, the shadows became thicker, denser. The darkness curled around them like fingers, beckoning, entreating, whispering promises of safety in exchange for their compliance. Timmy, are you here? Sarah called again, her voice echoing off the walls, growing smaller with each syllable. A sudden crash erupted from the rear of the cabin, a loud, desperate cry that froze Sarah's blood. Mommy! Ella yelped, practically climbing Sarah's body for safety. Stay behind me. Sarah didn't know if she was reassuring her daughter or herself. With every ounce of will, she pressed forward, driven by an instinct almost primal, desperate to uncover the truth. As they entered the back room, the candlelight flickered wildly, revealing a small wooden table, overturned. A broken chair lay nearby, splintered wood glinting subtly. And there, amidst the wreckage, something pale sprawled on the floor. Timmy? Sarah gasped, lungs constricting as she rushed forward, ignoring the creeping dread tickling her spine. Ella's sobs echoed softly behind her, but Sarah's focus locked onto the figure at her feet. It was small, covered with what appeared to be a familiar shirt, Timmy's favorite, a symbol of innocence turned to horror. But as she reached out to touch him, the stillness in the air shifted. The shadows lengthened, coiling around her. No, not him. A voice shrieked from the depths, fierce and feral, shaking the cabin to its core. The ground quaked beneath Sarah's feet. She stumbled back, heart pounding with disbelief. Timmy's figure twitched, not quite human, but a distorted echo of what he once was. Run! Timmy's distorted voice cried out, mingling with the shadow-laden laughter. The lights flickered out, plunged them into darkness punctuated only by the cool, clammy breath of the non-existent wind. Mommy! Ella screamed, voice shrill, a piercing sound that cut through the darkness. Terror surged through Sarah as panic gripped her heart. With no time to think, she grabbed Ella's hand once more, and together they barreled back toward the door, but it wouldn't budge. It pulsed against them, heavy and unyielding. Let us out, Sarah cried, throwing her weight against it. The haunting laughter surged back with a vengeance, filling the spaces where their shouts had faltered. A hollow voice whispered, you must choose, staring into the abyss of the darkness that surrounded them. Sarah felt the weight of the decision crashing down. What choice could possibly exist in a place like this? Terror prickled her skin as the shadows inched closer, reaching, pulling at her. Just when it felt like all hope was lost, a faint glimmer of light appeared in the far corner. Was it salvation, or was it another trick? Mommy, please, Ella pleaded, eyes wide but filled with a glimmer of something. Hope or fear, Sarah couldn't tell. With the shadows closing in, she knew they had to make a choice. But the question remained, would it lead them to freedom or further into the nightmare? As the cabin seemed to twist around them, shuddering with malevolent intent, Sarah felt time slipping away like sand through her fingers. What lay beyond that flicker of light? And would they survive to uncover the truth? The light pulsed, brightening for a heartbeat, then dimming like a dying star. Sarah squinted, heart pounding. We don't have a choice, Ella. Hold my hand tight. They slowly edged towards the glow, the warmth beckoning amidst the claustrophobic darkness. With each step, shadows wrapped around their ankles, dragging at them, tempting Sarah with soft whispers. Stay here forever, Mommy. Ella's grip tightened, nails biting into Sarah's skin. Her terrified eyes darted around, searching for escape, for anything familiar. The laughter had morphed into a low hum, vibrating through the floorboards, shaking the very cabin itself. Don't listen, Sarah yelled, forcing her legs forward, each movement a battle against the pulling shadows. Her breath came in short gasps. Her chest felt tight, constricted by an unseen force. Just a few more steps. The flickering light drew nearer, revealing a doorway etched in silvery filigree and adorned with symbols that seemed to writhe. Sarah could barely make sense of it, but it felt alive. "It's just a door," she murmured, to reassure herself as much as Ella. But as they neared, the ground rumbled, reverberating through her bones. "Your choice," the voice echoed again, its tone twisted, enticing. "Leave behind what you love most, and find freedom, or hold on and face the darkness." "Mommy, what does that mean?" Ella whimpered, pulling back slightly. "I don't know, baby, but we can't let go of each other." The glimmer intensified, casting an eerie glow over Timmy's figure still curled on the floor, a reminder of the horror that awaited them if they turned back. Shadows clawed at him, tugging as if trying to pull him into the darkness. He was no longer just her son. He was a piece of the curse they had unwittingly walked into. As they reached the door, a chill coursed through Sarah. A flicker of doubt crept in. What if the door led to worse things? What if safety was an illusion? In a split second, Ella's eyes filled with determination. "Mommy, we need to go. Look at him." She pointed toward Timmy, and confusion tore at Sarah's heart. A mother's protective love battled against instincts of survival. "Stay focused, Ella. We don't know what we're dealing with." The whispers grew deafening, melding with Ella's fierce voice. "Yes, lost. I don't want to lose you too." With that, Sarah's resolve shattered. The love for her daughter surged, pushing past her fear. "You're right," she shouted, adrenaline surging through her. "We'll find a way." Drawing her daughter close, she took a deep breath and swung the door open, expecting light. Instead, darkness enveloped them more than ever, a void that swallowed every trace of hope. Cold air rushed against them, smelling of damp earth and something metallic. The cabin groaned, as if realizing it was losing its grip on its captives. Suddenly, fierce tendrils of shadow lunged toward them, grabbing at their limbs, fiercely pulling them back. "Mommy!" Ella screamed, panic spilling into the air, drowning out everything. "Hold on," Sarah cried, feeling the floor shake beneath their feet. The shadows thrashed, screeching like demons, trying to reclaim what they believed was theirs. But they pushed forward, tugging against the dark, relentless grip. Just as they were about to break free, one shadow slithered close, whispering vile threats in their ears. "This light will take you, but what must you abandon?" Sarah's heart raced. What would she sacrifice? Could she really choose? Just as the shadows pulled them back one last time, a burst of bright light exploded from the doorway, engulfing them. But in that blinding moment, a single figure swayed into view, a familiar, ghostly silhouette that sent a heart-stopping jolt through Sarah. "Mommy, was it a trap? An invitation? Or was it something more sinister waiting at the edge of the light?" As the brightness enveloped them, Sarah could hardly breathe. What was true and what was an illusion? She felt their minds unravel, tangled in confusion. The choices were haunting, the consequences dire. And then everything went white. The cabin dissolved, leaving only the sound of Ella's sobs and a haunting reminder: you must choose. Where would they land? In the depth of light or back in the cage of shadows? Would they emerge as the same family? Or would something darker still lurk within? A memory of laughter echoed faintly, but this time it wasn't Timmy's. What awaited them on the other side was shrouded in mystery, and as the light dimmed, that question lingered like smoke in the air. The world snapped back into focus, a jarring shift from the blinding void. Sarah and Ella found themselves standing in a nightmare made real. They were no longer in the cabin. Instead, they were surrounded by twisted trees, their branches gnarled like skeletal hands reaching for an inky sky, where stars flickered like distant, tormented souls. "Mommy?" Ella's voice quivered, a fragile wisp of sound against the thick silence. "Stay close," Sarah commanded, her instincts screaming for her to guard her daughter. She took a breath, struggling against the dread that clawed at her insides. This place felt alive, suffocatingly close, and it murmured with sinister intent. The air was heavy, thick like syrup, and the ground felt oddly pulsating beneath her feet, as if the earth itself was breathing. A chill skidded up Sarah's spine when she spotted a dark figure standing just beyond the treeline. Its shape was indistinct, but its presence radiated malice. "Mommy, what is that?" Ella's tiny hand shot out, pointing, voice barely above a whisper. I don't know," Sarah murmured, every instinct urging her to run. But her feet felt like they were glued to the ground. She could see the figure shifting, merging with shadows, then breaking apart like the dark was alive, teasing her with glimpses of something more. The whispers, Ella stammered, eyes darting around. "They're back again." "Keep your voice down," Sarah hissed, suddenly aware of how grave their situation now was in this strange place. The shadows danced playfully around them, flickering in and out of reality, each wisp evoking a laughter that wasn't childlike but taunting, cruel. "Mommy, I'm scared." Her heart raced anew. "I know, baby. We can't give in." Desperation clawed at her thoughts. If they were going to survive, they had to stick together. Suddenly, the figure stepped closer, revealing a glimpse of a face twisted in sorrow. It was a haunting reminder of someone they had lost. The eye sockets were deep and hollow, seeming to reach into Sarah's very soul. Glassy tears streamed down its cheeks, a macabre counterpoint to the mouth that stretched into a ghastly grin. "Leave her." The thing hissed, each word a dagger in the air. "You can't both survive this." Sarah felt her stomach lurch, a tug of war between horror and a desperate need to protect Ella. The choice loomed, the same choice that had echoed hauntingly in the cabin. "Mommy." Ella tugged on her arm, panic-stricken. "Don't listen. We have to go. Run." Sarah shouted, gripping Ella's hand and sprinting through the maze of trees. But the forest shifted, the path twisting impossibly. Each step felt like a step deeper into the abyss, as the dark figure melted into the shadows behind them, its laughter trailing like smoke. But they couldn't escape the inevitable whispers that filled the night air, growing louder with every frantic beat of Sarah's heart. You must choose, it echoed, throbbing in her ears, a menacing rhythm that melded into her thoughts. Just ahead, a shimmer caught her eye. A bright light flickered through the trees, more pulsating than any they had seen before. Hope ignited within her, a beacon piercing the heavy veil of dread. "Over there, Ella. Do you see it?" "Yes." "But look," Ella cried, pointing. The trees parted just enough to reveal a clearing, yet shadows surged from behind them. "Alive. Hungry. Go." Sarah yelled, pushing Ella ahead. "I'll do what I have to." And as her daughter dashed towards the light, Sarah paused, her heart hammering in her chest. Could she leave everything behind? Was there another way? But that twisted face loomed back in her mind, a reminder of what they might lose. "Mommy!" Ella's cry pierced her thoughts. The warmth of the light beckoned, while the shadows slinked closer, creeping up her legs. With one last look at the dark abyss from where they came, Sarah's choice crystallized. "I'll protect you, Ella," she screamed, baring her teeth against the encroaching dark, fists tightening. She took a deep breath and charged towards the light, the shadows clawing at her back. What lay on the other side? Safety? A trap? Or the start of a new nightmare? The moment stretched taut as an arrow, and with a fierce cry, Sarah dove into the brilliance, praying it would save them both, or swallow them whole. But in the faint recesses of her mind, a chilling certainty took root. Whatever awaited them next wouldn't let them go without a fight. And as the shadows receded behind them, a single, echoing chant filled the air. You cannot escape, you must choose. Light engulfed them, swallowing the darkness whole. Sarah squinted against the brilliance, heart pounding. The instant relief turned to dread as the light twisted around them, warping the world until even the ground felt unreliable. Ella stumbled, gripping Sarah's hand tight, her small nails biting into her palm as they tumbled forward. With a sharp gasp, Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her. What had seemed like solid earth erupted into a sparkling haze. They were now falling into a dreamy abyss, spiraling down with no end in sight. Whispers erupted around them, crashing like waves against their minds, urgent, haunting, impossibly filled with pain. "Mommy!" Ella's voice trembled, fear threading through its pitch. "I'm here," Sarah shouted, panic clawing at her throat. The ground evaporated into a gust of frigid air, swirling around them, carrying echoes of the sinister laughter that had haunted their every step in the forest. Crashing, they landed with a jolt on a dense carpet of moss, the earthy smell filling their nostrils. The air felt alive again, but it sang a different tune now, one that crawled under their skin. "Where are we?" Ella whined, pushing her tear-streaked face into her mother's leg. "I don't know, sweetheart, but we have to keep moving," Sarah urged, glancing around. Trees towered over them, twisted and taller than before, their bark glistening as though slick with sweat. Shadows slithered at the edges, darting into the mist that crept along the ground like a predator stalking its prey. The whispers continued, a cacophony of voices tugging at Sarah's consciousness. "You must decide. You cannot both live, make your choice." Every voice echoed with malevolence, the words prickling like thorns embedded in her heart. Every inch of her being screamed to flee, yet part of her was desperate to understand. "Mommy, what do they want?" Ella's eyes shone with innocent fear, searching her mother's face for reassurance. "Just stay close, sweetheart." Sarah forced a smile, although her heart thudded violently against her ribcage. They pressed forward, moving cautiously into the dense foliage. Each snap of a twig made them jump, as if that sound could unravel the very fabric of their reality. And then they saw it, a clearing ahead, bright but foreboding. In its center stood a stone altar, ancient and weathered. Dark symbols carved deep into the surface glimmered with an eerie light, swirls of colors that seemed impossible yet captivating. "What is that?" Ella whispered, her hand trembling in Sarah's grip. "I don't know, but something about it drew Sarah in, as if it contained the key to all that had transpired." The whispers intensified as they approached, a tempest of voices rising to a fever pitch, as if encouraging her to touch it, offering her whatever she'd been searching for. "Mommy?" Ella tugged again, sensing the shift in Sarah's demeanor. The altar felt warm against her skin. She stretched her fingers toward it, her heart racing with every inch brought closer to the stone surface. Memories flooded her vision, good, bad, every moment she had ever experienced with Ella, but they were tangled with flashes of loss, shadows lurking just outside her vision, haunting her every breath. In that moment of hesitation, the whispers grew sharp, dissecting her mind. "What will you sacrifice? Who will you choose?" A shudder ran through Sarah. The weight of the question coiled around her heart, squeezing tight. "I want to choose. We can both go back," she shouted, even though doubt crept in like a thief. The altar radiated in response, pulsing with energy, and the shadows closed in, hungry, ravenous. Many silhouettes merging into one looming presence. It was the figure from before, lurking just beyond the edge of the clearing. It stepped forward, the sorrowful face from the forest twisting into malicious glee. "You can run, but the choice remains," it taunted, voice smooth and dripping with dark delight. Sarah recoiled, turning back to Ella, who stood frozen in fear. Could she risk everything? Could she make the choice before it was forced upon her? "Mommy!" Ella cried, eyes wide, the shadows creeping toward them. There was no more time. With horror mounting in her chest, Sarah stepped back, preparing to take her daughter and flee, but then the altar erupted into light, captivating them both. And with it came a realization that sent chills coursing through her veins. Even if she ran, they would always be faced with a choice. And as the undulating shadows spiraled around them, with a sickening certainty Sarah came to understand that this choice would define not just their fate, but their very souls. What cost would she have to pay for survival? Before panic could set in, the shadows whispered once more, promising togetherness in calamity. Choose wisely or be lost forever. In that moment, the air thickened, and the whispers coalesced into a deafening roar, drowning out her thoughts, drowning out everything. Would they escape, or would they succumb to the unforgiving darkness? Either way, the cost would be inescapable. The shadows licked at Sarah's feet, eager to pull her in, but she forced herself to focus, heart pounding. She had to make a choice, but what if there was a way to fight it? Ella's eyes shone with unshed tears, pleading for her mother's strength. "Mommy, please." Ella's voice barely broke through Sarah's racing thoughts. "What are we going to do?" "No matter what," Sarah replied, an urgency igniting deep in her core. "I won't let you go." The altar pulsed with power, mimicking the rhythm of her heart. She took a deep breath, desperately searching for a way out. The whispers reached a fevered pitch, each voice claiming a piece of her sanity. "You will lose her, you will pay the price, I won't lose anyone," Sarah shouted, shaking her head as if that could shake off the tormenting fear. The altar beckoned, still offering answers hidden in the abyss. "Mommy, let us go," Ella urged, her little body trembling. But uncertainty gripped Sarah's heart. What if this place was the key to finding Timmy? The lure of the answers was intoxicating. But those answers came with a cost she couldn't afford. "No," she shouted into the darkness, silencing its seduction for a moment. "You cannot take her." In that moment, clarity emerged, a fierce realization flared within her. Love was not just an emotion. It was a force, a barrier. "Stay by me and do exactly what I say," Sarah instructed, yanking Ella closer. "We're getting out of here." With renewed determination, they dashed toward the altar, ignoring the whispering shadows that lashed out, searching for a way to ensnare them. The faint glimmer of the light at the altar expanded, surging into a blinding beacon. Sarah locked her gaze onto her daughter and thrust her hand over the altar's glowing surface. The moment she touched it, a surge of heat coursed through her, a rush of memories, laughter, and the sheer weight of motherhood collided with the darkness. The shadows screeched, writhing against the light. "You cannot forgo your choice," they howled, but Sarah held fast. "I choose love," she declared, a heart-wrenching choice that reverberated through the air. "Ella is my light. We choose each other." At that moment, a magnificent cascade of energy swept through the clearing. The ground shook violently underfoot, and the oppressive shadows recoiled, swirling in furious patterns, the darkness unraveling at the edges of their world. "Leave her," Ella cried, pulling closer to her mom, instinctively echoing her mother's proclamation. "Leave us alone." The light pulsed around them, enveloping their forms and starting to weave into a protective shield, pushing the darkness back bit by bit. Sarah could feel the very essence of the shadows bouncing against the shield, angry, powerful but futile against their united front. In that ephemeral moment, Sarah realized the true power lay not in making a choice but in the bond they shared. "Together, we are stronger together," she shouted, feeling the warmth of her daughter's love bolster her heart. The shadows wailed, a cacophony of despair as the light expanded, flooding through the clearing as if to illuminate a path. In that moment of unity, they surged forth, bursting through the threshold, hand in hand. The world around them erupted in blinding brilliance, and just as swiftly, the darkness was torn apart, fracturing into a million simmering sparks of nothingness. It vanished, swallowed entirely by the illuminating force that now consumed the air. "Mommy!" Ella cheered, and within the flood of light, Sarah turned to her daughter, her heart swelling with the love they had forged. "We did it." But then, a last whisper echoed, soft and chilling. "You may leave, but remember the darkness always watches, it will come again." They blinked, the blinding light fading away to reveal the forest again, the same misty trees, the soft chirps of night creatures, the familiar path leading back to their campsite. "Are we back?" Ella breathed, staring in awe, and Sarah felt a flood of relief wash over her as she held her daughter tighter. "Yes, sweetheart. We're home. We'll always be together." The shadows had run, but Sarah felt a tinge of wariness linger. This place had tested them. It had shown them the terrors hidden in the dark. "Mommy, will we ever go camping again?" Ella asked, her voice a small, fragile thing in the night. "Maybe when we're ready to face it," Sarah replied, holding her daughter with fierce protectiveness. She glanced toward the woods, shadows now a faint memory. "But only if we're together." Together. As they walked back toward the car, every step echoed with the promise of brighter days ahead, a pledge to face the darkness, armed with the strength of their bond. And somewhere deep in the Appalachian woods, the whispers fell silent. For now. But fate is never certain. Shadows linger in corners unseen, and promises of choice, like the weight of summer air, rest heavy in the hearts of those who dwell near the unknown. As they reached the car, their lives intertwined in triumph over darkness. The night began to settle, a blanket of stars sparkling overhead like faint, watchful eyes a reminder that while light may prevail, the darkness is never far behind. And with that, the festival of hope wrapped around them, ready to face whatever might come next. You need to subscribe now to our channel, so you don't miss our next exclusive story. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting us through these actions.